Hey there. So every single workplace, right, it runs on rules. But a lot of the most important ones are kind of hidden in plain sight. Today, we're going to decode that whole framework, the policies, the procedures, the standards that really shape our professional lives. And to kick things off, I'm going to put you in the driver's seat.
Okay, so let's jump right in with a little scenario. I want you to imagine you're the new security manager at some big manufacturing plant. You've just rolled out a new visitor system, and you've got 3 new rules to write down. Here's the catch, though. They're not all the same kind of rule. Let's see if you can figure out how to categorize them.
All right, here's rule number 1. You see how this feels kind of high level? It tells you what to do, escort visitors, and it even gives you the why, to protect trade secrets. Okay, let's just tuck that one away for a minute.
Okay, on to the next one. Look at this. It's totally different, right? It's a straight-up checklist. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a precise sequence of actions for the person at the front desk. Super specific tasks.
And finally, rule number 3. This one's all about the nitty-gritty, the technical specs. We're talking paper size, font size, color codes, really specific stuff. So what we've got here are 3 very different types of rules. So how do we sort them out? Well, to do that, we're going to need a framework.
And to solve this puzzle, we first need to understand the keys to the system. And those keys are found in what you might call the pyramid of rules. This is the basic structure that pretty much any organization uses to build out its documentation, and it flows from the super broad, big picture stuff all the way down to the tiny details.
So, sitting right at the top of that pyramid, you've got the policy. I want you to think of this as the 30,000-foot view. It's a broad statement, usually coming straight from senior leadership, that tells the whole organization what needs to be done, and, this is the important part, why it matters. It's the big picture.
Okay, one step down from the policy, we get to standards. Now, if the policy tells you what to do, the standard tells you how well it needs to be done. It sets a really specific, mandatory requirement, a minimum benchmark that you absolutely have to meet. This is where you find all those technical specs we were talking about.
And then we get down to the procedure. This is the real ground-level stuff, the how-to guide. A procedure gives you the exact step-by-step instructions for getting a specific task done, so that you're following the policy. It's pretty much an action plan.
And last but not least, we've got guidelines. Now, these are the odd ones out because they're not mandatory. A guideline is more like a recommendation, a best practice. It's there to give you some helpful advice, but still gives you room to be flexible. It's the difference between you must do this and you probably should do this.
This is a great little cheat sheet to pull it all together. You can see right here how the purpose, the audience, and the authority changes for each one. Policies, they're for everybody, and they come from the top brass. Procedures, those are for the folks actually doing the work. And standards, well, that's for the tech people and managers who have to make sure everything's up to spec.
Okay, so now we know what all these different rules are. But where do they even come from? I mean, they don't just magically appear, right? There's actually a whole life cycle, a process that takes them from just an idea all the way to being enforced. Let's take a look at how that actually works.
So check this out. This 6-step cycle really shows you that policies are living things. They're not just written in stone and forgotten. It all starts with someone identifying a need or a risk. Then you draft it up, get it approved, and this is huge. You have to actually train people on it. I mean, a rule is totally useless if nobody even knows it exists, right? After that, you enforce it, and then you have to circle back and review it to make sure it's still doing its job.
But here's the thing. Even with a perfect process, policies can and do fail. And it usually comes down to one of these 3 reasons. First, it's just too complicated. It's written in that confusing legalese, and nobody can figure out what it means. Second, it's unenforceable. Like, you can't actually monitor if people are following the rule. But honestly, the biggest policy killer of them all, a lack of support from the top. If leadership doesn't follow their own rules, why would anyone else bother?
All right, now we've got the framework, we know the definitions, we've seen the life cycle, we are officially equipped. So let's circle all the way back to that first challenge and finally solve this visitor puzzle.
Okay, here's that first statement again. Ringing a bell? The big, broad, high-level rule. Now that you know, what is it?
You got it. That's a policy. It is a textbook example. It clearly states what has to happen, all visitors get escorted, and why, to protect the company's secrets. That's a top-level directive, plain and simple.
Okay, next up, our little checklist. Remember this one? The sequence of specific actions all in order. What bucket does this one fall into?
That's right, it's a procedure. It's the step-by-step how-to guide for the front desk. It doesn't waste time explaining why they're doing it. It just tells them exactly how to do the task correctly, every single time.
And that just leaves our last one, the super specific statement about the badge itself. All those details about dimensions, paper type, and font size.
And that, my friends, is a standard. See, it doesn't tell you what to do or how to do it. Instead, it sets those mandatory technical requirements. The badge must be 2 by 3 inches. The font must be 24 point. These are the specific, measurable metrics that make sure everything is consistent and compliant.
So you might be thinking, okay, neat puzzle, but why does any of this actually matter? Well, because this pyramid, it's not just for security managers. It's like the invisible architecture holding up any effective organization. If you can understand whether you're looking at a policy, a procedure, or a standard, you instantly know who's in charge of it, how much wiggle room you have, and why it even exists in the first place.
And that brings me to one last thing for you to think about. Think about your own job, your own workplace. What's one of those unwritten rules that everybody just knows? Now ask yourself, where would it fit in this pyramid? Is it a guideline that everyone follows? Or maybe an informal procedure? You know, applying this framework can tell you a whole lot about how your own company really works. Something to chew on.